Warriors! Have you heard Dave Ramsey's perspective on inflation and cryptocurrency? Well, I'm going to break it down today from both perspectives, giving it a fair shot and really helping you understand where we're heading in the quantum financial system. My name is Coach JB. I am the top health and mindset coach in the world. What you believe in your heart, you think in your mind, will eventually become your words and become your reality. If you can see it in your mind, eventually you can hold it right here in your hands. What you repeatedly do gets ingrained in your subconscious mind. What gets ingrained in your subconscious mind becomes an unconscious activity. So today we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey, him talking about inflation when one of his callers call in, and cryptocurrency. So actually, this is a question I get a lot around Dave Ramsey. I have nothing wrong with this system. Actually, when I was going to a Christian church, non-denominational Christian church, I actually went through the Dave Ramsey program and I paid off all my debt. But what I noticed is a lot of people who went through the program, I don't know statistics or people I know personally, ended right back up in debt. That has nothing to do with Dave Ramsey. He's teaching fundamental discipline around finances and biblical stuff too, around you're not supposed to be enslaved by debt. So there's some really great things that Dave Ramsey talks about. But we're going to go around and take a deep dive on, based on his video here, what he says to a gentleman about inflation. We're going to see what he thinks about cryptocurrency, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what some of the billionaires are doing. So I'm going to give you my perspective on both sides of it, and then I'm going to go all the way through to two of the top billionaires in the world and what they are actually doing. Now, remember, it's kind of skewed if you think about it. These billionaires have billions of dollars, right? So they can get into speculative assets. So let me break this down. I want to hear your comments down below and what you think about this. So I'm going to narrate this video for just a moment. We're going to head over to a second video where he talks about cryptocurrency. And then we're going to dive into what Warren Buffett says, Ray Dalio, and then the announcements that have come out in 2021, what Bitcoin, what Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett are doing, two of the richest people in the world and some of the best investors in the world. So let's watch this video.
Listen, Wichita, Kansas. Hey, Boaz, what's up?
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Great, man. How can we help?
Hey, I'm currently a college student here in Wichita, and I am kind of wondering, I have about $22,000 in savings and about $2,000 on my debit card. I'm kind of afraid because right now I hear with all the new money being printed that inflation is going to hit it. So I'm wondering, since I'm currently a college student,
what did you hear?
What
did you hear?
Oh, I was hearing that there's like going to be a lot of inflation maybe here coming since they printed off a lot of money.
Who told you that?
Oh man. That's what I've been hearing from a couple people. So I've been
like who? Your drinking buddy in college?
No, just a little bit on YouTube and things like that.
Oh, you went down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theory crap. That's what I thought. You've been playing on the internet, getting financial advice. Oh, Dave.
Yeah.
What year are you in, Boaz?
So this is interesting. The only thing I dislike is how they make people feel stupid. I mean, this person's calling in for advice, and I would feel kind of dumbed down at this point. So it's just an observation.
Right now, I will be becoming a sophomore over at Wichita State.
Okay.
And he's also saying you're getting your advice off the internet. Dave, where's your advice coming from?
Cool. What's your question, man? How can we help?
I'm wondering if I should go and either use that money towards my college. Currently, I'll be working, so I'm wondering, should I just use my money in my savings? Should I just invest that?
And you're saying you want to invest because you're scared that you may have some inflation issues coming up down the road, right?
Yeah, like my interest won't, like in my savings account won't keep up with the inflation rate, which it's not currently. So I'm wondering if that's a smart idea to stick it into investments pretty much.
So let me ask you this question. Let's say if you did do that. Let's just say I say, yep, do that. How are you going to pay for college? Student
I
loans?
was only going to stick about $5 or $7 grand in there, and then the rest I was just going to work while I was in college.
So here's my thing. No, don't invest in that thing. You have the $22,000 and $2,000 in your savings account. The best investment you can make into yourself is right now. It's not into, investing it so you can save on inflation. No, you want to make sure that you graduate debt free. Now, once you graduate debt free, and if there is some level of inflation, then let's worry about it then. But the key thing is I want you to graduate 100% debt free And so keep that money in your savings, use it to pay for all of your cash, get off of YouTube or only get on YouTube to listen to the Dave Ramsey Show. The way Dave is looking at me right now, you may want to come watch my show first, then go.
Okay, so the thing I do agree with is investing in yourself. I've spent a lot of money in self-development. So I do agree with them not going into debt for that and investing in yourself.
Come and look at Dave, because Dave really wants to talk to you right now. But I'm just trying. I'm stepping in for Uncle Dave.
And he said, "Get off YouTube," but where's their show at on YouTube?
Dave, and I'm your nephew. So,
So, what are you studying?
I'm studying aerospace engineering.
Good for you. Good for you. So here's the point. A guy like you that even has enough good common sense to even ask this question is so far ahead of the game studying aerospace engineer that you investing in you, what Anthony's telling you, to get that degree debt-free is worth a lot more than any investment that you could possibly make. No mutual fund will keep up with what you're going to be worth because you are getting an aerospace degree. Follow me? Mathematically.
Yes, sir.
Mathematically, you are more valuable.
I agree with that 100%.
That's not some kind of existential thing of we think Boaz is awesome, although we do. But this is more like, dude, the money that you can make with that degree is greater than the money you will make on a mutual fund. Get that degree, get it debt free. Anthony's advice is exactly correct. Okay. Now let's step back for a second, though, just for the fun of it, and have that inflation discussion. Okay. Just to soothe your fears. Yes, there's going to be some inflation. We're already seeing it. And what inflation is an increase in costs. The cost you have to worry about increasing is college. You don't have to worry about the cost of milk over the next 3 years, ruining your life. You do have to worry about the cost of milk or gasoline or whatever other components of inflation that there are ruining your life over 50 years, but not over 4 years or 3 years or 2 years while you're in college. It's the long-term drip where inflation kills you. The only way that inflation would kill you in 2 years is if we had hyperinflation, which we have never had in the United States. And hyperinflation is where all goods and services triple in 1 year.
Which is happening in Venezuela. Their dollar collapsed.
Quadruple in 1 year. So a $200,000 house becomes an $800,000 house. A gallon of gas is going for $14, and a loaf of bread is $10. And if you saw that, then your fears would have come true. But that would be the first time in the history of the United States. By the way, there's only 2 instances that we can find in the modern world economy that has actually occurred. One was in pre-Nazi Germany, and the other is good old South America, Argentina. Okay, and so we saw collapses of the entire economy. As a result, new governments rose up, and all currency was disbanded, and they started over. This is how Hitler came to power, by the way. It was not on his charisma. It was an economic collapse, and he stepped into the vacuum and made himself the hero of resetting it. And it was from hyperinflation. So you can go back and study that, by the way. But it's an interesting discussion. The point being is it's not going, if we have a 5 or a 10, if we normally have a 4% inflation rate, if it's 7%, which it's probably going to be, because we're seeing cars go up in value, houses go up in value, 2x4s are going up, plywood's going up, resin, you name it. Copper, steep.
So interesting perspective. So I want to hear your comments down below what you think. Okay, so let's go into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, what Dave Ramsey thinks, right? Now, Dave Ramsey's whole concept is all cash, right? Now, Ray Dalio says cash is trash. So I'm just giving you guys different perspectives. I get a lot of questions around Dave Ramsey. Not saying his system is bad, but we're looking at building generational wealth, right? He's worth about $200 million. So that's pretty damn good, right? So he's done a great job of paying off debt, saving and safe investments, right? But here's his perspective on cryptocurrency.
Investing might be, but that's what investing implies the tortoise.
Yes.
Speculating implies the hare.
Yes, that's right.
Gambling is the possum in the middle of the road. Okay, but
yeah, that's what it feels like emotionally to me. It really does. Like if I were to invest in Bitcoin, I'd just be.
I think you got a better shot at Bitcoin than you do the lotto. So that's all I'm saying.
That is fair.
But both of them are dumb ideas in my mind. And I didn't put any money in either one of them. I've never bought a scratch-off ticket in my entire life.
Right.
Dave, you're no fun. No, I just don't like giving my money away. I can drive. If I'm going to have fun that way, I'm going to roll down the window, throw $100 bills out, cause a traffic jam.
You know what
I'm
it
going
is?
down the interstate. That's more fun.
Yeah, well, you're too competitive. You want to have a shot at making some money, not just I'm going to throw it in the air and to see what happens.
And, you know, of course, everybody that's a Bitcoin genius right now thinks Dave Ramsey's an out-of-touch boomer, which is probably true. But I'm also worth several $100 million, so let's go figure that out. But
yeah, I'd say look at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Take Dave on all you want.
So yeah, so look at the scoreboard. That's impressive though. He's worth almost $200 million. So I just want to give you both sides of the coin. That's all I'm here to do.
But the scoreboard is a scoreboard. And it does come down to your risk tolerance.
What do you, well, not just risk tolerance, what is your goal? And what do the data points tell you? So, I mean, I've had people call this show investing in Beanie Babies.
Really?
You remember when Beanie Babies were crazy?
I was a kid. I remember my grandmother had them. People invested.
They were like such a hot commodity. People were
Oh,
investing in them,
collectible.
calling them as a collectible, calling in here saying, I put my.
So now we know how he feels about Bitcoin. The things that just stand out to me is just how demeaning he is, right? So you're basically an idiot if you invest in Bitcoin, right? Where are you getting your information off of for inflation? Off the internet and YouTube, when he's on the internet and YouTube selling his program, right? As I'm on here helping you guys through the quantum financial system. So let's listen now to Ray Dalio, who says cash is trash, which is completely opposite of what Dave Ramsey says.
That look is a look that can only happen by a roaring fire at a verbal cap.
This has been in the news the last few days, everything around unemployment benefits, getting people back in the workforce. What do you think should be done?
The payments on the unemployment benefits have been greater than the benefits in some cases of working. And so that has been a challenge. And I think it's recognized, and then they'll get through it. I think this is a.
So do you think they should be rolled back?
No. I think it should just be completed and moved on. Get past it, and then we'll go back.
So continue the extra payments for now.
We're not going to sustain the types of payments that have been sustained up until recently, or up until now.
Would you like to see them lifted immediately, as some states are?
No, I don't think. We're splitting hairs. You can make it a little bit quicker, a little bit. No, I don't think that's the big issue. The big issue is the amounts of money that have been produced and put into the system, and that, together with the lesser impact on the economy of COVID as we get past that, is creating a giant stimulation that is having inflationary impact. So you're going to see a big increase in the inflation rate, and that'll become an issue. And it will be difficult increasingly to sell those bonds and require more printing of the Fed. Those are the big issues.
So very different perspectives, right? Very different sentiment. So just giving you all perspectives. Now here's Warren Buffett on inflation.
This question from Chris Freed from Philadelphia, and whoever wants to take this on stage. From raw material purchases by Berkshire subsidiaries, are you seeing signs of inflation beginning to increase?
Let me answer that. Greg can give more. We're seeing very substantial inflation. It's very interesting. I mean, we're raising prices. People are raising prices to us, and it's being accepted. I mean, it's not. If we get, take home building. I mean, the cost of, we've got 9 home builders, and in addition to our manufactured housing thing, and then operation, which is the largest in the country. So we really do a lot of housing. The costs are just up. Steel costs, just every day, they're going up, and there hasn't yet been, because the wage stuff follows. I mean, if the UAW writes a 3-year contract, we got a 3-year contract. But if you're buying steel at General Motors or someplace, you're paying more every day. So it's an economy really. It's red hot. I mean, and we weren't expecting it. I mean, all our companies, when they thought when they were allowed to go back to work, at for various operations. We closed the furniture stores. I mentioned, they were closed for 6 weeks or so on average, and they didn't know what was going to happen.
So he goes on to talk about dry cleaning, right? This is the first time he's worn a suit in a long time. Dry cleaners are shutting down. Jerome Powell says we're coming back to a new economy, right? Leverage more towards technology. The middle class is going to get wiped out. So very different sentiment. Dave Ramsey is saying, inflation. And there's always inflation. We're in a completely different environment than we've ever been in our history, right? So if you take a look at inflation, so what lies ahead? The last rise in inflation to 4.2% in April 2021 has fueled expectations that the Federal Reserve could raise interest rates and tighten monetary policy. The rise in the consumer price index for all items in the U.S. the last 12 months has increased by 4.9%, increase in September, a 4.9% increase in September 2008, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. In the recent times, the Federal Reserve has been willing to accommodate higher inflation, but that stance could change with the unexpected pace of price increases in the latest data. The Fed sent pretty clear, strong message over the last year or so that it's not going to be deterred by signs of inflation and that it's going to keep loosening monetary policies and keep interest rates down, said Wharton finance professor. Okay. The position could now change as the inflation data for April was quite alarming, Goldstein continued. No one really expected the number of inflation to be high. So when we start seeing more expectance, then maybe the Fed eventually started raising rates and tighten monetary policy. The federal funds target rate serves as a benchmark for bank interest rates and is currently in a range of 0% to 0.25. The Federal Reserve has said it expects to keep its benchmark interest rate near zero through 2023. So this is, very different. Dave Ramsey saying, inflation, it's, he's kind of goes off on this kid about inflation that he got his information off YouTube, right? We can only go by what's happening. They printed more money since the inception of Bitcoin in 2008. More money's been printed since the pandemic and then in history. And so let's take a look at really quickly. Yes, Dave Ramsey's crushing it. He's worth $200 million. Well, let's take a look at Ray Dalio. He is worth $20.3 billion. Warren Buffett, $109.1 billion. Dave Ramsey, worth $200 million. Now, I think we'd all love to be in Dave Ramsey's shoes, right? But when we're looking at advice and inflation, and let's see what the billionaires are doing. This is just a conversation to have. Ray Dalio just admitted that he has some Bitcoin. The billionaire hedge fund's boss sees an inflationary future where cash is trash and BTC catches on as a store of wealth. He still doubts governments will tolerate it. Concerns about looming global debt crisis have taken the world's top hedge fund managers from doubting Bitcoin to dabbling in it. Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio said U.S. dollar is on the verge of devaluation on a level last seen since 1971, and that China has threatened the greenback role as its world reserve currency. In such environments, Bitcoin with gold-like properties look increasingly attractive as savings vehicles, right? Very, very different from what Dave Ramsey's saying, but you get to make your own informed decisions, right? Now, this was amazing. This came out. Check this out. I've been saying Warren Buffett, he closed out of most bank stocks, closing out of Chase Bank. He closed out of, I don't want to speak out of school, but he closed out of quite a bit of bank stocks, raised his stock in Bank of America, right? It's a second holding besides Apple. Think about it. Bank of America is connected to Ripple, just my opinion. And then this came out on 6/8. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway invest $500 million in digital bank that works with Bitcoin. Not saying he invested in Bitcoin, but he did invest $500 million in a bank that it's a digital bank basically that works with Bitcoin. So he's not going to invest in Bitcoin, but obviously they're moving into the new quantum financial system. So you have Warren Buffett, who's worth $109 billion, buying into a digital bank that has Bitcoin. You have Ray Dalio, who's worth $20.3 billion, his hedge fund, and he's now saying he's dabbling in Bitcoin. You have some of the largest companies in the world dealing with Bitcoin, right? We're moving into a new economy. Now, to be fair, with Dave Ramsey, he talks about he's very risk adverse, right? He's older. He's got $200 million. So it's very speculative. And yes, cryptocurrency is a very speculative asset. There's high volatility in it right now. Of course, there's very little regulation when it comes to cryptocurrency. So remember, they resist it. They sue it. They regulate it. then they join it. So I just wanted to give you this different perspective. I'd love to hear your comments down below. This is not to say one side or the other. What are your thoughts? Do you think we're heading into an inflationary environment? Do you think cryptocurrency is going to be the way that we're going? I do in my paradigm based on having 12 years in banking experience and seeing fintech coming fast and furious. But warriors of freight train has left the building. As Rosie Rios said, we're heading into a new economic system. And those warriors who get on board are going to go for the ride of life. You have a choice. You can get on board and go for the ride of your life, or you can get ran over by the train. But at some point, everybody's going to need to get on the train. So I just want to give you a different perspective. Hope you enjoyed this type of video. And down in the description down below, you can join our private warrior academy, access to my portfolio, my exit strategy, cryptocurrency Discord, technical analysis call, crypto calls, and most of all, my 120-day challenge where I show you how I'm super disciplined in this undisciplined world. Click the link down below. Everything you need. Warriors, rise, get your shit together.